Carl and Liam here from Brrraaains A Head-Banging Life, gbhblofficial for short. And it's getting goosebumps. We're at the real tail end of season 3, as this is the 17th episode of this season and the 61st episode overall. It is Strained Peas, which book-wise is the 3rd short story in the book Tales to Give You Goosebumps. And goodness me, does this one have short story feels. Extended, dragged, drawn out to an absurd degree. It is beyond forgettable. Thank God notes are written, because I forget a lot of the detail in this. And as of the time recording, I only watched this about a week ago, and fuck me, it's gone from my head. That's me personally. What about you?
Well, before we literally started this video, I mentioned how I had only just watched this episode in a day or two ago, and even though I have some notes trying to remind me of some of the events that take place in it, I was struggling myself to remember. And I think that's intentional. I think I intentionally made myself forget because how much it sucks, basically. Yeah. You mentioned another recent episode about how you struggle to think of notes and details to highlight. You know, we always like to highlight aspects of Goosebumps that are good and bad and whatnot, but this one for me is probably the episode that I've had the least to say about, which I think says it all. And it's unfortunate that we're going into a stage now where it feels like we're being really negative about a lot of things happening in Goosebumps, but I think that it's just how it went down and probably why the show ultimately ended up ending.
It is what it is. They're struggling for content, so we're struggling to enjoy that content. It is as simple as that. Tier list time when it comes to season 3, this is going to be in the lower categories. It's simple as that. It's directed by Don McCutcheon and written by Rick Drew. So Don McCutcheon in his second directorial debut. Also announced was his first one. This is his second one. Cast very small. Tyrone Savage as Nicholas Morgan, Janet Lane Green as Martha Morgan, Booth Savage as Tom Morgan, and Alicia Panetta as Sam. There are a lot of interesting facts around this episode, though. So Tyrone Savage, who plays Nicholas, played Daniel in season 1's It Came From Beneath the Sink. I would never have remembered that because It Came From Beneath the Sink was a very forgettable episode in season 1.
It must have a similar sort of vibe to it, I would say, you know. It's kind of odd.
Okay. This I thought was fascinating. Booth Savage and Janet Lane Green, who play in this episode Nicholas' parents, were actually a real-life couple at the time, but also the real-life parents of Tyrone Savage. So they're playing his parents in the episode, but are his actual parents in real life.
How did that happen, man? What's the story behind that?
Amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Similar to a lot of the episodes in season 3, this is stuffed with hints or nods to other episodes. The toy block that Sam picks up from Grace's crib bears the Goosebumps G logo. When Nicholas is fighting with the baby through a remote, the channel that is switches to a scene from, say, Cheese and Die. So you got that as well. Yep. In one scene, Sam leaves Nicholas's house with a skateboard. With the cover design of the haunted mask, it's the same prop from Grady's room in the Werewolf of Fever Swamp.
You know it's getting bad when they start putting in references to other superior episodes. You know, that's when it's headed downhill.
Thing is, I don't mind this overall, but the problem is it's suddenly become so heavy that if it had been a consistent thing throughout the entire show, season, where you're like, oh yeah, referencing other things and maybe trying to create a shared universe, I would have been, oh, this is kind of cool. But it just feels like dumb fan service more than anything else.
I'm amazed they never went down that route of being like, you know, all these stories are contained within one world. You know, that would have been, you know, that sounds like a story in itself that maybe they could have done, but yeah,
agreed. And I thought this was fascinating. If you want to know how poor this episode is, this episode is the lowest rated Goosebumps episode of all of them on IMDb.
I can kind of see why, to be fair.
I can see why, but I think a lot of things is open to interpretation. I would take this over certain other episodes that I downright hate it. But I also understand, because it's so forgettable, that's going to be its major issue. Let's get into it, people. Let's get through it. We begin outside a house as we hear a voiceover of a young girl named Sam teasing a boy named Nick/Nicholas about what it'll mean when his parents bring home the new baby. And the reason my tone is like that is, God damn it. God damn, what a shit introduction.
I have to just quickly say, we are always talking about sibling rivalries and how that is a major trope in Goosebumps episodes throughout the entire run. This is literally sibling rivalry, the episode.
Yeah.
They've taken that and they've made an entire episode about it. And they've just
I would
gone
argue
way
I would argue it's the ultimate sibling rivalry, considering what events are suggested throughout it and should transpire.
Yeah.
Nick doesn't believe her, though, and goes to greet his parents, Martha and Tom, who arrive home with a new baby. The baby, named Grace, starts to cry. Sam says that she's hungry and leaves. As Martha takes the baby upstairs, it seems to growl at Nick. I had to rewatch this scene a couple of times because I could not work out what the noise was, but also they didn't do anything with the baby's face. So you get the baby's face, which just looks like a baby's face, and then you've got this superimposed noise that I was like, what is that? So I just gave up and went with growl.
With what's to come, I kind of wish they had stuck to the whole doing nothing to the baby face. But yeah.
I disagree. Just go all in on the absurd. If you ever seen The Annoying Orange, you know that. That is what this is. There's another episode we did, can't remember the name of it, where we had faces superimposed on the back of people's head in their hair. And we call it one of the worst effects we'd ever seen. This is up there with it.
Apparently people making the episodes didn't think that because they've used it quite a few times throughout Goosebumps.
Indeed. Anyway, that night, the baby continues to cry as Nick tries to sleep, having, at least this made me laugh, put a football helmet on his head and then stuff cotton wool in the side to cover his ears. So, all right, good try.
Mm-hmm.
Having had enough, he goes to the baby and realizes that she needs changing. And I was like, where the fuck are the parents doing all of this? It's only when he picks her up and she burps that Martha, the mother, then comes in. That's that scene, folks. We move on. The next day, Nick is complaining to Sam, and she continues to tease him about being forgotten once the baby gets settled. Nick denies that, but now apparently just wishes the baby would go away. And he tells Sam that he thinks she's doing it on purpose and looks at him funny. I was like, wait, where was any of that? You cannot use that one fucking scene on the stairs and have this about turn, which apparently is within a day. Because we're just, as far as I'm concerned, we're doing the next day, right?
I assume there's some kind of time jump because the next time we see Grace, she's clearly older than she was as like a newborn or a couple months old. She looks like I don't know if it's a different actress like baby playing Grace now, but it looks significantly older. So I felt like maybe some time had passed and he'd been ground down by her keeping him awake, crying, and all that sort of stuff. So he kind of got a bit paranoid, maybe. And I'm probably reading too much into it.
I believe that more than my one, because my one is it's the next day, and apparently this is what happened. So I would believe, we had to have a time jump here. Just put it up on the bottom a couple of months later. Just do that, please.
That's all it takes.
Anyway, Nick and Sam then start rocking out as some sort of test on a rat they have. Oh, they will call this rat a gerbil. It's clearly a fucking rat.
We're calling it a gerbil. I must have missed that, but that's obviously stupid.
Martha comes in and turns off the radio, annoyed that they've now woken up Grace. After, Nick and Sam are with the baby, as Nick seems to spend more time with this baby than the parents do. And as Sam is insisting that he learn to call the shots, what are you fucking talking about? It's a baby. What are you going to do? I'm in charge. Nonsense. But he does notice Grace has spelled out the words "only me" in blocks.
Only me? Grace?
He calls Sam. Go on.
I'm sorry, I just had clearly what the twist of this should have been in some way. That it's Sam that's just fucking with him, right? Because it's obviously not the baby, but she is like fucking with him basically. She's the one that is in his ear, making him paranoid, and obviously the baby ain't writing shit on the mirror, but like she's doing it to fuck with him maybe, and that leads to something. But I know that's not what it is. I just had that idea.
No, it does not go there, indeed. He calls Sam over, but while he lifts Grace out, for some reason he decides to lift Grace out to show Sam the blocks. And in doing that, he knocks the blocks, so obviously Sam now doesn't see it, so doesn't believe him. And
That's
obviously Nick's now getting freaked out.
That was just his fault, though. He's the one that like dragged the baby's legs into the blocks.
Why just leave the fucking baby there? Hey, Sam, look at this. But it wouldn't have mattered because Sam would have come over and been like, oh, you did that. Obviously. That night, as he sleeps, we see his door creak open and the shadow of a baby going down the hallway. Okay, this is totally for me, and maybe you got it as well, or other people may have done, because no kid watching this would get it. But shots like this and the odd baby laugh you hear, Pet Cemetery vibes, dude. Fucking Gage.
Yeah, no, I felt that too. Yeah.
Just, it's not that, unfortunately, because that would have been immensely cool, but it's not. Nick, hearing noises, gets out of bed and goes on the stairs. In the kitchen, he slips over, and this is where you kind of know they're just fucking idiots. When he slips over, they've added this absurdly comical wee noise to it. Why do that?
I don't know. Maybe that's just the vibe they're going for the episode. It's supposed to be kind of silly and cartoonish, so I don't know.
Which is fine. He slips over a mess of food, and we see the fridge has been emptied out on the floor. He then continues to follow the sounds, finding Grace watching TV, and she's watching like a compilation of car crashes. It's just fucking weird.
I mean, that's funny at least.
And admittedly, I was like, oh my God, we're doing slappy stuff here. This is what this felt like. Because we know what's going to happen. The parents are going to get up and blame Nick, and he's going to be like, no, it's the baby. How is that any different to the fucking dummy?
Yeah, I mean, it's reminiscent of many boy that's cried wolf things that we've seen in Goosebumps. But yeah, it's all very similar to Slappy, which is, or maybe that's why this episode came out a poor time, because of what came before the previous episode with Slappy.
Indeed. So we thought we were done talking about that dummy. Nick demands the remote. They get into a tug of war before Grace says, your history, big brother. And that's where we get our first glorious shot of the superimposed mouth on this baby. And fuck me, they didn't even try. Didn't even try.
It's just horrific.
Yeah.
Give it to me. Give it to me. Give it. Let go.
Your history, big brother.
She lets go, he falls over, and this noise here is now enough to get his parents out of bed. Nothing else, this noise. Like, okay, whatever. Of course, Nick tries to defend himself, and of course, because he's an idiot, and like all the ones that cry wolf, he blames Grace, which I was shocked that the parents didn't believe him, stunned. His parents are annoyed, and he's ordered to clean the kitchen and is sent to bed. Sometime later, obviously, even Sam doesn't believe him. As he takes cookies out of a box, he then finds a pacifier inside the box and believes that this is now his proof. And obviously, Sam, being like any sensible person, is basically, oh, just stop being an idiot, and she leaves. I have no idea why he thought that was proof.
Yeah, I kind of felt bad for I felt bad for the kid that's playing him here, because I actually think he's not that bad of an actor. I think he does a pretty good job of selling these moments and stuff like that with his acting. But he's literally working with like trash here, Yeah. I'll be surprised if when like the camera cuts, he like got really pissed and like uppity, like this is just getting the script out, like this is nonsense, tearing out pages, because it's ridiculous.
Christian Bailing, the fucking director, you're never going to work in this town.
Making him look like a jackass. Like, for real.
Oh, good for you. Nick then goes up to the baby and confronts her, attempting to get her to talk. She doesn't until he tries to take the toy away. And here she then threatens him, but this time he's recorded her on a oh so 90s tape recorder. Did laugh at that.
What could go wrong?
Yeah, what could possibly go wrong?
Soon I'll be the only one.
Ha! You talked, and now I have the proof I need. Gotcha now, babe. Now you're the one who's history.
Grace then seems to use powers which create a wind, slam the door shut, turn the sky dark, and her eyes flash like cats. So you're like, oh shit, stuff's going down here. Oh my fucking God.
What an escalation, though. I mean,
Right? I'm like, okay, now we're getting good. Ha! Enough of that, as we immediately cut, just flat cut, to sometime after, and Nick is trying to explain what happened to his parents who don't believe him. And I was just like, no, you can't do that. We've seen dumb cuts before, but this might be the worst. We cannot seriously cut away from this. What was going on? How did Nick get out of it? What did Grace just go, just stop doing that completely and he walk out?
yeah, I can't. Well, I find it impossible to believe that in the book or where the short story or wherever it's based on, that is how it is written. There's just no way. Like,
No way.
that happens. And what does it say? Like, end of chapter, then next chapter, and it's like, oh, the next day. Like, it's impossible. So they clearly just like cut something there. I don't know what, but
It's not good enough. It's not good enough. If you thought the episode wasn't too good beforehand, I think hopefully like us, you're like, you know what, fuck you episode. If you're not going to give us anything, we're not going to bother. It's as simple as that. Because of course, then he plays the recording. But where in the recording Grace's voice should be heard, the tape just goes funny. I'm like, oh, of course it fucking does.
But again, it's like you said, what was going to happen? Even if they heard a voice on the tape, does he think that they'd be like, oh my God, you're right. She's
I
talking.
just think he was doing it.
Or like
I
his
think he
friend
was
did or
doing it.
something.
Yeah,
He's doing it,
yeah, absolutely. Angry, he goes upstairs to find his closet a mess, and he finds his math book has slime on it with a few mouthfuls taken out of it, you know? I appreciate the prop.
Yeah, I thought they were going to go down the angle of, like, did the funny joke of he goes into school and they're like, where's your homework? And he's like, my baby sister ate it.
Yeah.
You know, I thought they were going to do that, but they didn't.
Once again, he confronts Grace, and when he points at her, she bites his finger. And this, again, is just a terrible effect because you can immediately see when he gets his finger free, there's nothing wrong with his finger. Like, I know you're not going to do blood. I know you're not going to do that. But if you do something more comical, have it glowing red if you want, a little bit fatter, like a fucking cartoon. If we're going for silly, but it's just like his finger's perfectly fine. It's so dumb.
You're not getting away with this. Ow, my finger! Ow!
She has no teeth anyway, right? I mean,
Yeah. Well, there's that as well, I suppose. And then we, God almighty, I thought of you here as we go back to, we haven't had it in a while, round of a fucking applause, Goosebumps, as his parents arrive and then suggest what for him. Liam, please tell us what they suggest he should do.
what was it again? I've completely forgotten.
Therapy. Fucking
therapy.
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 It's been a while, but therapy's back on the table.
That's the best solution to terrible parenting is therapy. I am a terrible parent. I cannot solve the situation. I'll ship him off to a professional that they can do the parenting for me. That's what it is. When neglectful, just screw it, man. Therapy.
Adorable. I love it. And I love the fact that this ends as well by Nick going, no. And there you go. All right, go to your room. Therapy or your room? Which is it, Nick? Therapy or your room?
Sounds like he made a good choice.
Later at dinner, his parents revealed that instead now they're going to send him to stay with his grandparents. And I was like, you guys fucking suck. Like, you are just bad.
But that again ties into the whole terrible parenting thing that we've seen all the time. They're always shipping their kids off to somewhere else, like in summer and whenever. When things get tough or they can't figure something out, just ship them away, man. That's the way it goes.
Obviously, Nick points out that this is what Grace wants, but he's told, look, you're going. A phone call distracts Tom, his father. And when he comes back, he reveals that Nick called the doctor, telling him that they gave them the wrong baby. I do quite enjoy the parents' faces and reactions here. They're like, are you fucking kidding me? That at least made me laugh.
Lawsuit.
But knowing afterwards that they would have natural chemistry because they were actually parents of this kid, I thought, yeah, this was often some of the better acting moments. And I was like, okay, yeah, it makes sense. You've got chemistry. But then it takes another odd turn as the parents are going to meet the doctor to discuss it. And I'm like, why? Why? Why would you be doing that?
Yeah, no, that's true.
Tom then comes up with a bright idea of leaving Nick to babysit. And I was like, oh my fucking God, you're the worst parent ever. You are. Because this kid is likely to either smother this child while you're gone or send it away, get rid of it somehow. And you're going to leave him in charge. So naturally, I'm thinking the writing of this episode can't be this dumb. I'm like, all right, his parents are aware. They're going to turn out to be monsters. And it's all this and that kind of nonsense. It's going to be that. You know, figured it had to be. Because there's no way your idea is my son, who has gone batshit crazy, so much so that I want to send him to therapy. I'm going to, because he doesn't like his little sister, I'm going to leave him in charge of her. Crazy.
Yeah, I agree. I thought it was actually going to go down that route of, oh, they actually, you know, some kind of twist, or like they know what's going on, and oh, they're going to explain to him how that the monsters and all that rubbish. But no, just terrible parenting.
And the twist in this episode does not save this moment. That's the problem. The twist in this episode does not save it. It's still incredibly irresponsible. So, but anyway, later now, we then see Nick attempting to cage in Grace and is called Sam over. He's put a baby gate up at the door, basically. He then puts a baby monitor down by the gate so he can hear if Grace moves. In his room, Nick and Sam are testing their rat. It's a fucking rat. Do not call it a gerbil. And discover that the CD they're going to play the music has chunks bitten out of it. Of course, Nick blames Grace. Sam, whose only role in this episode has been to argue with Nick, get annoyed, and then leave, gets annoyed, and then leaves. What a waste. What was the point of this character?
Yeah, definitely one of the most pointless characters to date.
Then the lights go out. And Nick doesn't seem that bothered, considering. This was a bad acting moment because his reaction is so understated for what should be, oh shit.
That's true.
He goes and gets a torch and finds Grace gone from her room. She appears to have chewed through the wooden gate.
Mom and Dad are gonna think I did this.
Nick then hears smashing from the other walkie and goes downstairs, finding a table and plates have been upended in the living room, and starts to call out for Grace, demanding to know where she is, and starts to look for her. A noise from upstairs then gets an attention and he goes to his room. This is really slow. Really slow.
Just wanted to end at this point.
I really wanted to end at this point. In there, it looks like Grace has tried to get the rat, but we see it run under the bed. And this is really, really badly shot, where I couldn't work out what was going on at first. And they've tried to suggest something to hide it in other ways. So I see the rat run under the bed. Nick then goes to look for it, looking under the bed, and then for some reason thinks Grace ate it. And I was like, wait, is Grace under the bed? But then we then cut to the baby sitting on the bed above him. And I couldn't work out what was going on because then the baby jumps down on Nick's back under the bed and then runs out the hall. Very, very confusing. But it's all cut and edited in a way to try and hide the limitations of what they're having to do with the baby. But it doesn't look good.
Yeah, I think they were clearly struggling at this point with how to move around this baby and whatever, and that's the problem.
Yeah. She then runs into the adult's room and blocks the door, but Nick is able to get inside. He then finds Grace on the bed with toiletries around her and lipstick smeared on her face. And she wrote, "Only me" on the mirror in lipstick. Why the face? What was that about?
I don't know.
Grace, no!
Nick tries to use reverse psychology on Grace, sort of saying how she's a good baby and all that. She then burps, and we again smash cut because we can't do it to sort of show the alive rat a little bit like wet, as if she spat out the rat. He then grabs the baby, and his parents arrive home right at that moment. And admittedly, I was like, this looks terrible. And he immediately goes, this looks bad, doesn't it? And I was like, yeah, at least you got that one right.
It does.
Hold still, you little monster! This looks bad, doesn't it?
But hey, we're at the end here as we see Nick with his parents in the living room. And they say that the doctor apparently said it was a mistake, a computer error. I'm like, what was? What, the children? Okay, get to that then. We then see a really expensive car, a limousine with a skull motif on it pulling up, a coat of arms. Inside the house, it seems as though Nick was right and his parents now know. Out of the car comes a very stern-looking driver who kind of a Lurch-style character. He rings the doorbell and demands grace. And we do this weird trade-over thing where the parents hand her over and given their actual child. After looking at their child, they decide to name her Chloe. Oh, if I can care. Again, I'm waiting for the twist. I'm waiting for the whole reveal of like they're monsters and they've now got a monster child and they were handing back a human child or something like that. But basically, the twist is we see Grace as with her actual parents, two sort of, I don't know, demonic creatures. But all we kind of get is it's shot from chest and hand level, and we see their hands are kind of claws, and we hear their voices are like, look, we got a cute little baby, you know? That's all we've got.
Look, darling, she's just like
So
me.
cute. She has got your eyes.
And then it ends with Nick, who walks off with Chloe, talking to her, is shocked to discover that she can now talk as she demands food. And this episode ends right with the ultimate example of why this episode just sucks. His reaction to that, he sighs. He just rolls his eyes and goes, oh, in the back of his chair. And I was like, holy fucking shit. Holy shit.
And Big Brother Nicholas.
Could that baby talk and give me some food? None of that mushy junk.
I think that's the actor sighing at the absurdity, and that's why they just cut there. That was it. They cut, and there's nothing else after. That's why.
I think we made an episode sound more exciting than it actually was.
I know. I feel pretty bad that we've made the episode sound better than it was actually.
But we have cut through so much filler, so much drawn out bits, so many pointless parts to get to an ending that didn't satisfy in the slightest, and then a final stinger shot that just felt lazy. I don't like it. It's a straightforward, I don't like this.
I mean, I get the basis for the episode because I can sort of understand the fear that a child may have about a new sibling joining the family and how that can cause tension and whatnot, but it's just handled in such an extremely silly way. We've talked about how certain details are just ridiculous. The ending sort of twist is nowhere near as interesting as it thinks it is. Yeah, I just think I thought the baby playing Grace was good well done, good acting for the little baby. I guess that's a small positive. I'm supposed to think of any positives. Super forgettable episode, and we've discussed before, but it is really in danger of going down as the very worst Goosebumps episode, I think, because it's just not, it doesn't have that element that some bad Goosebumps episodes have, where they are bad, but they have certain aspects that make them fun, so they almost got that whole so bad that it's good vibe going on, but this is just plain bad. Yeah.
I'm not going to add anything to that. I don't want to talk about this episode anymore. If you've got any thoughts on it, you know what to do. Let us know in the comments.
Thank you very much for watching. If you liked what you saw, please help us out by giving us a thumbs up and hitting that subscribe button. If you really liked what you saw, consider donating to keep the website and channel running by buying us a coffee via our coffee page or picking up some merch from our Big Cartel store. You can check us out on gbhbl.com as well as via our social media, Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, as well as listen to our interviews via SoundCloud, Apple Music and Spotify. Just search for GBHBL. Games, horror and heavy metal. What else is life for?